listening and watching the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, and I'm live here from Athens ahead of West Ham's Europa League game, match 3 tomorrow night away at Olympiacos. Although by the time you're watching it, it's probably tonight. I'm here with sports journalist and front co-host of the Gate 7 International Olympiacos podcast, Kostas. Kostas, absolutely brilliant to have you with me tonight in your wonderful home city. What a spot. We've got some 2,000-year-old history in the background. We've got wine bars, we've got bistros. I've had souvlaki already. What a time to be alive. But we're here, of course, to talk about West Ham v Olympiacos in the Europa League. First of all, great to have you with us. Thanks for making me feel so welcome in Athens.
The honor is all mine. The pleasure is all mine. It's always a great honor for me to have such wonderful journalists from around the world visiting here. And it's I'm really pleased to be part of this wonderful podcast.
Oh, God, it's a far better introduction than I've ever given it, and it's my podcast, to be quite honest.
That ain't true.
First of all, the most important thing is, what are we drinking here?
We're drinking some white wine, some white Greek wine. It's good, it's all right. It's all right, I can't really complain.
I don't think I've ever had wine in such small cups before.
Well, that's how we like to do it. Plus, I mean, we're having a carafe here, so kind of makes sense. Obviously, for me, always the secret is the ice cubes. Yeah. I love it with my ice cubes in here. I love Greek wine. I'm so glad you're loving it as well.
Exactly. I would normally have one of those too myself, though. That is the only problem.
We can order another one.
You appear to have bought one.
We'll order. No, that's a half. That is a half. We have our pina coladas. Yeah. You had your gins. Yeah. We'll order us another one.
Exactly. We're having a good time so far.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries.
Look, we've got loads to cover on the podcast. I'm really delighted to have you with us. Gate 7 International is your pod and YouTube channel for anyone who wants to check it out watching from home. You're a sports journalist as well in your own right, but most importantly, and I think that's why we've got you on here tonight, is you're an Olympiacos fan. You're born and bred in Athens. You're Olympiacos through and through, it's fair to say. How are you feeling about the game tomorrow night?
Well, I mean, Olympiacos are basically a team that's finding its footing right now. Last season, Olympiacos had their second worst season since 1996, which marked the end of what we call the dark days, because for 10 years, Olympiacos couldn't win the title. It all ended in 1997, actually. 1996, 1997 is when we turned the tide. And Olympiacos are finding their footing right now. They're much better than last season. But there are a few bits and bobs that they need to figure out. Most importantly is the defense. We lack a lot of charisma at center back. The only saving grace is Panos Retsos, a very talented young Greek lad who came up pretty much the same time as one Dinos Mavropanos. Very highly rated, but from then on we cannot find a good partner for him. Jackson Poros is going to start alongside him tomorrow. Loanee from Troyes. He's already being given a lot of notes regarding West Ham's attack, so we expect him.
Well, yeah, we're not sure what that attack's going to look like at this stage, quite honestly, whether Michail Antonio or Jared.
We can make an educated guess, though, can't we?
Potentially we can. But listen, look, Kostas, before we get into all the nitty-gritty about the game, I just want to feel and let all of our viewers and listeners of the podcast sort of get a bit of a sense about what it's like to be an Olympiacos fan, not just now, but over your life. You're a similar age to me, and I imagine it's been a completely different experience watching your team. First of all, though, I just want to ask you straight up, and we'll get it out of the way. Spoken to a colleague of yours from the podcast, Harry, already since I've been here in Greece, and the first question I asked him, and I've got to ask it to you as well, is a lot of West Ham fans saw a lot of the articles on the way out here about the fan trouble. I think there was a general sense before even what happened with the Panathinaikos game at the weekend that this was going to be one of more, shall we say, a heated derby. Mm-hmm. I spoke to you about it before I came out, and then of course we all saw the scenes at the Panathinaikos game at Olympiacos' stadium on Sunday. Match abandoned just inside the second half with the scores at 1-1 because the Panathinaikos sub had a firecracker or firework.
One card, firecracker.
Yeah, thrown very near him from the crowd. Well, just talk to me a bit about that incident and generally sort of, is it fair, lots of the reports we're seeing in England, is it fair West Ham fans who are out here at the moment to feel a little bit apprehensive?
Well, the thing is, when I moved to the UK, I remember in my third year of university, I said something about the refs, a Champions League game that Olympiacos played at, and I mentioned the refs. And the English would just look at me like, oh, really? Was it the refs that did it for you? Well, in Greece, we always talk about the refs. And the worst part is that we're going to talk about a referee mistake for a very, very long time. We're still talking about things that happened in 2003 or even the late 90s. And this, what happened against Panathinaikos, we're going to be talking about this for many, many years. My kids are going to be talking about this. It was another disgraceful incident in a very long, out of a very long list of disgraceful incidents that happened because of fan violence in Greece. It was also extremely, I'm going to dare say, extremely stupid what that fan did. Fan, put as many quotation marks on the word fan as you want, if you could find a better word than that. I just don't, I'm trying not to curse. What he did, what they did, was extremely ridiculous because Olympiacos had just equalized and they were looking much better than Panathinaikos and they were pushing for a quick second. And what they did was ruin Olympiacos' momentum. Panathinaikos players, in my opinion, rightly returned to the dressing room once Juankar was put on a stretcher and driven to the back to see a doctor. And from then on, it was just an absolute shambles. The doctor claims he didn't have enough gear to determine whether Juankar could or could not play. The whole ordeal took at least 2 hours to figure out whether Juankar can play or not. At the end, he went back to the hospital. He had issues with his hearing. He still does, apparently, at the time of this recording, which is the day before the match with West Ham. He's not part of the Panathinaikos squad who are going to play against Rennes in the Europa League tomorrow. It's a he said, she said kind of situation right now. They said, they said. This whole thing is going to go to court. Olympiacos will have to explain themselves. And the thing is that this is going to drag and drag, Will, and I'm going to close with that because I'm waffling, but this is going to drag and drag and drag. This is probably going to go until the end of the season. Whatever happens with EPO, the losing side is going to appeal, and then the losing side of that appeal is going to go to the Court of Arbitration of Sport, and that's where it's going to be decided. But this game could decide the title. This game could decide who wins the title right here, and it's such a shame that for once more a title might be decided in court rather than on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talk to me a little bit then about fan violence in Greece in general. There was the horrendous story, of course, about the English fans will know him as AEK Athens. I think over here it's AEK Athens. A fan of AEK who was horrendously murdered by, correct me if I'm wrong, Dinamo Zagreb, again, fan, ultra, whatever the word you want to use is.
Michalis Katsouris was his name.
Yeah, and again, we obviously major condolences to him
absolutely,
and his family. And it's not I've come out here on my own for this. I've got some friends among the West Ham away fans. I've met up with you, of course, and I messaged you before even the Panathinaikos incident and was a little bit apprehensive. Just because I think Greek football generally and the fan culture and fan violence is reported on a lot. And if you ask most British football fans, they would say that Greek football has got a reputation for fan violence. Do you feel that that is fair, or is it a bit overblown in England? But, some of these things I'm talking about are reported incidents that have happened. It's not, it's not so much, you can't really blame it on media overblowing it, perhaps.
If they are overblowing this, they're not overblowing it much. I guess that's a short version of the answer. In Greece, we're still reeling with fan violence because of the murder of Michalis Katsouris from what is supposed to be a Dinamo Zagreb fan. I'm not even sure if I can call them fans. I'm trying to use a better word on that, like fan. Please, people, when I use that word, please put as many quotation marks as you can. Don't take this seriously.
Yeah, someone reportedly associated with the club or whatever.
Reportedly, yeah. I mean, it is, yeah. And that wasn't too long after Alkis Kabanos' murder in Salonika by, again, PAOK fans. He was an Aris fan. We're hearing a lot of promises. We're not seeing a lot of results. I cannot remember the last time a fan caused caused an incident that led to a game being abandoned, like when Vladan Ivic, the PAOK manager who then went to Watford, had a beer can thrown to the back of his head and the match was abandoned, rightly so. Or when Oscar Garcia, former Brighton manager, had a roll thrown to his head. I cannot remember those fans being arrested in any way, shape, or form, or even chased after. Right now, I'm not
Why
hearing.
Is that?
I'm going to try and explain this. I do not think that is a priority when something like this happens. I think the priority for a club is to how to save their neck and not get too much of a heavy punishment. Did I explain this? I did not just explain it. No, I did not. I didn't explain it because what makes sense right now is to go after that knucklehead who did this and create an example for the other fans not to even think to follow in this person's example, but they're not doing it.
Is it fair to say then that it's part of Greek football culture? Acts like that, so perhaps more so than it is in England?
I wish I could say no. I cannot say no. It is part of it, unfortunately. See, now, as a reporter for The Sun, I try my best to show Greek excellence by interviewing the Euro 2004 winners, by interviewing young talent, by talking about players that are being signed in the Premier League. But unfortunately, this does overshadow us quite a bit. I do have to say, though, that tomorrow West Ham are not facing a Greek team. They're facing a European club that has qualified for the knockout stages of a major European competition in 13 out of the last 15 attempts.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we did speak about this with Ari. I had a really long conversation about it, and you'll be able to watch either on YouTube, it's already up, or listen to the We Are West Ham podcast as usual to get a little bit more detail about that sort of thing. But I'll just ask one more question on that.
As many as you want.
If there's any, before we move on to more football
as many as you want,
which is why people are here. But if there's any West Ham fans watching this who are either in Greece already or they're heading out for the game on Thursday night, what do you? Because there is some concern among West Ham fans, or there's a lot of talk saying that this one is going to be a bit tasty. Mm-hmm. West Ham fans are being made to meet at the Panathinaikos Stadium, excuse me, a considerable amount of time, 2 or 3 hours before the game, to get coached in on specially put on coaches with the police escort. There's clearly a sense that there's a need for additional security. How should West Ham fans be feeling if they're watching this now, a little bit nervous perhaps about what they can expect from Olympiacos?
Well, I guess it's always good to be careful, no matter where you go to watch a game. Personally, if I were a West Ham going in this, I would feel safe, because Olympiacos issued an announcement, a public announcement, targeting the fans, saying basically do not dare try anything silly. Protect the team, because the team is already facing up to a 4-game home ban, 4 home games being played behind closed doors. The next game is against PAOK. It's a derby in Greece, and Olympiacos are almost definitely going to play this game without fans already. They are facing a fine of up to 6 figures. I would say minimum 6 figures, and they're facing a potential the possibility of having 1 point deducted in the league. So right now they want to be careful. They don't want to make things worse, because UEFA are also not putting up with that nonsense at all. It is completely different.
Some would argue that they do, wouldn't they? Some would argue that West Ham fans we've seen, you mentioned it to me when I spoke to you before this trip, threw cups at the Fiorentina Cup tin.
But
and got a 2-game away fan ban. One of them suspended, weren't able to go to Freiburg away. But is there an argument that perhaps UEFA, if the punishments were harsher, that it would force the clubs? You've alluded to it already, that it's not a priority for clubs. Perhaps if the UEFA punishments were harder, either financially or with crowd bans, longer bans, perhaps that might encourage the clubs, or perhaps force them into cracking down on these people a little bit harder than they currently do.
Well, the thing is, Olympiacos' strength is based a lot on its fan base, on the atmosphere, on that strong and hostile atmosphere. But it's not hostile in the sense of, you're not leaving this place alive. It's just that we're going to make you understand you're not welcome on this on the pitch, and we're going to help our team win this game with the mind games. Basically, they try to use mind games. But I'll tell you
There's
this:
a line, isn't there? There's a limit, surely.
There's always
firecrackers at players. Is that a bit much?
Well, that's my next point. When I went to my most recent derby was against Panathinaikos last season, we would see flares being turned on. We would see firecrackers being thrown. And I got to say, like, we hear that a lot in Greece about where that firecracker was thrown, whether it was thrown at Juankar or next to him. It doesn't matter. We had this conversation. When you hear a firecracker going off in a stadium, you never forget that sound because it's scary. It hits your soul. If you have heart problems, that could cause you issues. So it doesn't matter how far the firecracker was thrown. Well, the problem is that it was thrown towards his direction. That's what's important. And in Greece, those things are not allowed. Officially, they're not allowed. But in Champions League,
unofficially, you say officially,
and they're putting up with this, and for some reason they're not cracking down at this for some reason. But in European matches, we don't even see a single flare. So that's why I would think to myself, like, as a West Ham fan, I would feel as safe as I could feel. I think this is going to be a match that's going to be determined on the pitch, right there and then. Olympiacos are going to give a strong atmosphere for West Ham. An aggressive atmosphere, a hostile atmosphere, but without the violent stuff. And if they do, well, they're even dumber. They're even dumber than what that guy did with the firecracker, because UEFA are keeping a very watchful eye at Olympiacos right now, and there will be further punishments that they're going to cause an even bigger problem for us, because we're going to need the fans against Batskatopola, which is going to be an extremely important match. It's going to determine who goes to the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen. It's been. I had to ask you about that, Kostas.
Oh, you can ask me as many questions as you want.
Yeah, I just think it's one of them. It's what fans are talking about at the moment. If I come on here and just talk to you about football, there's going to be watchers of this video, listeners to the podcast, going, "Well, you're not asking the questions and the things we're all thinking about."
No, you should ask those questions. Are very important. What happened in the game against Panathinaikos was absolutely horrendous. If Olympiacos get punished, then they get punished for it.
Sure.
And I think there's a very good case for Olympiacos to get punished. Now, here's something I'm saying that I don't know how Olympiacos fans are going to find. But at the end of the day, we need to stop fan violence. I don't care where it comes from. As a sports journalist in England, I am flabbergasted when I see fathers bringing their kids to a derby, a Merseyside derby, Man United versus Liverpool, Manchester derby. I'm flabbergasted because I cannot remember the last time I saw that in a Greek derby between Panathinaikos and Olympiacos.
But that's how it should be, surely.
Yeah, of course. Those are fans. Those are real fans, not that person who did what they did. Yeah. And I just want to see justice. I mean, as a journalist and as a fan, mainly as a fan, I just want to see justice.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, let's talk about football. So, as I've already mentioned to you, Kostas, I was absolutely beside myself with excitement when this draw was made. West Ham, this is our third season in a row of being in Europe. You mentioned then Olympiacos have got a decorated history in European competition, be it Champions League, Europa League, or now, did you play in the Conference League yet or no?
We haven't played in the Conference League, but I'm afraid we're soon going to be playing in the Conference League.
You may be. Yeah.
Unless we beat you.
Yeah, that's much.
Unless we beat you.
Yeah, but
your first loss in 17 attempts.
Yeah, that would be some sort of achievement.
That would be something. That would be something.
But as I explained, I was absolutely beside myself with excitement when we drew Olympiacos, because even though, as you've said already, and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail in a minute, you feel that West Ham are the stronger football inside, the way that European football setup works and the strength in the Premier League often means some of Europe's best teams still don't get to play in the competitions year in, year out. That's been West Ham for most of my life, quite honestly. So to see him in Europe 3 seasons in a row is an amazing thing for someone who's been suffering for as long as I have watching West Ham United. And when the Europa League come back round again this year, I was desperate for us to get a big team in the group stage, just so I could do exactly this, so I could come out, experience a different culture, watch my team in a different country in a different stadium, because I've still got that inner fear that it might all just come crashing down again any minute now. So I was delighted when Olympiacos came out of the hat. And just tell me a little bit from a football perspective what it's like being an Olympiacos fan, and what the for your fellow supporters and the players in the club hierarchy, where do their priorities lie as far as European football goes in the Premier League? Because you'll still have lots of West Ham fans who still prioritise the Premier League. I'm a give me European football every season sort of bloke. How is that for Olympiacos, who typically win the Greek league most seasons?
Well, the thing is, owner Vangelis Marinakis has done a brilliant job at Olympiacos.
The Nottingham Forest owner as well.
He's also the owner of Nottingham Forest, and he's already doing a very good job with Nottingham Forest, slowly establishing them as a Premier League, as a Premier League club, back to the Premier League. Vangelis Marinakis is not just an owner who wants his club to succeed. He's also a fan of Olympiacos. He is a fanboy of Olympiacos. His dream is to see Olympiacos winning a European Cup. And he has brought in some amazing personalities like Antonio Cordon as our sporting director, the former Villarreal sporting director, who turned them into what they are right now. He has brought in some amazing managers in the past, such as Ernesto Valverde, and Diego Martinez as well is a great manager. And his job speaks for itself in the sense that how many titles has he won? He has only lost 2. He took over in 2010, and he has lost 3 titles. So that is insane. That's an insane feat for Marinakis. Also, as I said, Olympiacos, in their last 15 attempts, they've made it through the knockout stages 13 times. And West Ham are not playing a Greek team. They're playing a European team. I had a very interesting conversation with my colleagues at Gate 7 International. Kostas Levoyannis said it better than anyone. Olympiacos' weakness is defense. To an extent where if an objective fan watches an Olympiacos match, I don't think you could find a game this season in which we conceded a goal and that objective fan would go, bravo, what a goal, what a finish. The way they opened them up, wow, what a finish. I think an objective fan would mostly be like, my God, what is the defender doing? That is shocking defending.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm thinking. Olympiacos are finding their footing and they are bound to click at some point. If they click against West Ham are going to have a problem. And the Olympiacos are going to go for a defender, a centre-back in January. If they get the right guy, we're going to see a completely different Olympiacos in the second half of the season. That doesn't concern West Ham. But if Jackson Porozo and Panos Retsos click, and that's the first time they start together, if they click, West Ham are going to have a problem because they're going to have to find another way to open up Olympiacos.
Well, look, let's call it as it is. Olympiacos need to win this game. Whatever's gone before, well, I'll tell you what's gone before, a 3-2 home defeat to Freiburg, who West Ham made reasonably light work of away in Germany, and a 2-2 draw with Bacca Topola, who, quite honestly, West Ham could have beaten in second gear. Well, we did beat him in second gear. Mistake from Angelo Ogbonna saw them score, but that was a freak accident, and you wouldn't see it again. Olympiacos are on 1 point. Everyone was expecting it to be a shootout between them and Freiburg. I think that's fair to say for the other qualification place. As it is, Freiburg clearly got the upper hand at the moment, and this is sort of, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but this is a must-win game for Olympiacos, is it not?
You're not at all hyperbolic, but even a draw could work for Olympiacos.
And West Ham, I think. Yeah.
And West Ham, even a draw could work for Olympiacos, because as I said, Olympiacos are finding their footing right now. And, well, it's important to understand that Olympiacos from midfield onwards, they are very strong. Ayoub El Kabi has scored 2 goals in the Europa League in 2 matches. He has great chemistry with Kostas Fortounis, which, fun fact, guys, West Ham almost signed him in 2019, and the deal was almost sealed until Kostas Fortounis injured his hamstring. And instead of Fortounis, West Ham got Pablo Fornals.
Were we just looking for players at the time whose surname started with FOR? Is that
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it? Amazing. It was, and I was thinking that at the time. But the Kostas Fortounis has amazing chemistry with Ayoub El Kabi, who always knows where to find himself. His positioning is excellent. He knows where Fortounis is going to throw the ball. He knows where the ball is going to come from the wing. Always finds himself in a position for him to score. He's not that kind of the Erling Haaland kind of guy who's going to get the ball and he's going to do a few maneuvers and just hit it on the back of the net. He knows where to find himself. Daniel Podence, a man who has
former Wolves player, of course.
Still a Wolves player on loan
loanee.
for Olympiacos. Yes, indeed. He's going to be very important for Olympiacos. He's going to start on the left wing. Extremely successful at Olympiacos. Hit the ground running.
What formation will you play? Sorry.
Well, we like something between a 4-2-3-1 that turns into a 4-3-3. Podence is going to be on the left. Already hit the ground running, even though he had 0 preseason with Olympiacos. Played 5 times with Wolves. Wolves beat West Ham twice, and on both sides, Podence played a role in those goals. He contributed 2 goals in both those 2 games for Wolves. So he has a bit of a tradition with West Ham. Important thing to say, guys.
So what are you telling me, that Daniel Podence loves scoring against the Hammers?
A bit of a
whoever
tradition.
He's playing for.
A bit of a tradition there. We haven't played yet. We haven't played against each other yet. But this is very important for the audience. We spoke about this at this wonderful place that had a wonderful view of the Acropolis. We wish to do it there. It's important to see if Santiago Eze is going to start. Santiago
Where
Eze.
does he play? What position?
Number 6. Basically, Olympiacos lost 3 of their best players from last season. Striker Cedric Bakambu. Number 8, Juan Guinbom. Number 6, Yann Villa.
Yann Villa, who does he play for now?
He's a free agent now.
Right.
Apparently Atletico Madrid won him though. We replaced Yann Villa with Santiago Eze. We replaced Bakambu with El Kabi. We haven't replaced the number 8 because Madi Camara has had a bit of a dip in form right now. So Santiago
as far as the
Eze,
game goes then, what are you expecting? Formation, style and starting
4-2-3-1 turned to 4-3-3. But if Eze doesn't start, he didn't play against Panathinaikos because of niggles. If he doesn't start against West Ham, he doesn't play, that's great news for you because Olympiacos are going to have a big hole at the back. There's going to be a lack of communication between the back and midfield. That's very good for you.
Are you a team who prefers to have the ball, or are you a counter-attacking side? Under David Moyes, West Ham are more than happy to let opposition teams have the vast majority of possession for most games. We've beaten Brighton and Chelsea this season, having less than 35% in both of those games. It's slightly different in Europe because we have the better players. We're expected to dominate the ball more. What are you expecting from your team?
Well, we are going to try and hold the ball. We are the kind of team that likes to hold the ball and provide pressure when they lose the ball. But I would advise against letting Olympiacos hold the ball because they score in Greece an average of 4 goals per match. So that wouldn't be a very good idea to just let Olympiacos run riot, especially when you know that their defense has been very weak this season. It's the same, and very important to say, Olympiacos conceded Olympiacos awarded Panathinaikos silly free kicks willy-nilly outside the box. And you need to get that because of one James Ward-Prowse, who was only 1 free kick away from surpassing David Beckham's record
in the Premier League.
In the Premier League,
of course. Right, listen, Kostas, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
For the first time ever. We do have to pay the bill because I think this amazing little bar we're in. Do you know what this is called?
Dioskuri.
Dioskuri. We'll give them a little plug. Amazing place. If you're in Athens, come and see here. But look, Kostas, before we let you go and we pay the nice man his money, West Ham. Oh, there we go. Look, he's coming in already. Look, how much?
No, that's me. That's me.
No, go on.
Mi πάρεις τα λεφτά του. Mi πάρεις τα λεφτά του.
Go on.
No, he won't take your money. He's my guy. Ορίστε, με 10 ευρώ είμαστε καλά.
There we go. Look, a bit of behind the curtain here on We Are West Ham podcast. Thanks very much. Do come to this bar if you happen to be in Athens.
Dioskuri.
West Ham fan watching. We've got some, as I've mentioned already, some 2,000-3,000-year-old architecture behind us. Amazing place. Kostas, I'm delighted to be here. I can't wait.
The pleasure is all mine.
For the game. I'm really am excited. I can't wait, and I love it. Eintracht Frankfurt away in the Europa League semi-final was an amazing cauldron of an atmosphere. And even though West Ham lost, I felt privileged to be there. I feel the same way about tomorrow. You just tell me, though, Olympiacos need to win. West Ham less so, but a win would all but confirm our qualification through to the Europa League knockout stages. What are you saying score-wise? West Ham Olympiacos in the Europa League, match day 3, Thursday night.
When I watched Olympiacos play Panathinaikos, I was thinking to myself, this team, there's no chance they are getting anything out of West Ham. But they were terrible in the first half, but in the second half they turned it around until that nincompoop did what he did. The second half team reminded me a lot more of most of the Olympiacos this season. But I think West Ham are the favorites. I think a 2-0 win for West Ham. But a lot depends on whether Eze plays. If Eze plays, it's going to be harder for you guys. And I wouldn't advise you guys letting Olympiacos holding the ball, because then they're going to find a goal. It's much likelier they're going to find a goal. And plus the fans, plus the Karaiskaki atmosphere. Well, David Moyes knows it, because he lost there with Manchester United in 2014 when he lost 2-0.
I remember that.
Dinos Mavropanos, I'm sure, has told his teammates about it. You cannot let Olympiacos feed off the atmosphere and hold the ball, because that will lead to a goal, in my opinion, inevitably.
Look, I can't wait. I think, to be honest, if we've had Ari on, we've had you on now. You've said 2-0 to West Ham. I think Ari predicted an Olympiacos defeat as well. I would be more than happy, to be quite honest, with a 1-1 draw. I think for West Ham's qualification hopes, that would do us very well.
Is that your prediction or your minimum hope?
I'll be honest. No, my hope is, of course, for a 5-0 West Ham win, and we have a party in the away end at the Olympiacos ground. Whether or not it'll be that, I'm not so sure. I think David Moyes will go into it being quite conservative, to be quite honest, and he'll know that a point will put us in very good stead for qualification. But he does like to get these things done early. We beat Freiburg away. No reason why we can't beat Olympiacos away as well. So I'm going to say I'll be more than happy with a 1-1 draw, as long as I get to celebrate a West Ham going in away. I'd always love that. But I'm going to go for it. If I'm going for a bold prediction, I'm going to say West Ham United 3, Olympiacos 1. What do you think about that?
I think that was the same prediction my colleague Labros Sirmos made. Remember, though, Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Burnley. Who am I missing here? They all lost
all
at
the big Northwest teams.
And it's
like
funnily enough, Olympiacos have beaten Arsenal at the Emirates more times than North London rivals Tottenham.
I was at that game. One of the most fantastic games of football I've ever been to. 9,000 Olympiacos fans in the away end. Right at the end, wasn't it?
El Arabi,
the winner,
who's on the bench.
An absolutely incredible game. And I've had a real affinity towards Olympiacos. I sort of did before. You know, they're one of Europe's great, iconic, historic clubs. But after that game beating Arsenal and the reaction of the fans, it was brilliant. I hope there's no trouble tomorrow, of course. But I'm not sure how fans feel about this generally. But I'm going to go to, probably not tomorrow, I think maybe Friday. I'm going to get down to club shop. I'm going to buy myself an Olympiacos shirt.
Sure.
Just to wear in the five-a-side.
Absolutely.
Back in London.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you a fan of wearing shirts of other teams, or not so much?
I don't really do that much, to be honest, myself. But obviously, I don't mind it. But I find it a great honor when a non-Olympiacos fan wears the jersey, because it just shows how much the club has grown. Because, like I said, Olympiacos are a European club. They're not a Greek club. If you're expecting to face a Farmers League team, then you're in for a huge shock. But I know David Moyes is a serious manager. There's no chance he's going to underestimate Olympiacos, same as the players. Hopefully there's going to be a good match there, a nice little cracker.
Yeah, absolutely will. Look, it might be an honour for you to have other fans wear Olympiacos shirts, but the honour tonight, and so far, I've not even been here 24 hours yet in Greece, but the honour has all been mine so far. Kostas Lianos, sports journalist, Olympiacos fan, joining us on the We Are West Ham podcast for another opposition view. These are my favourite ones. I'm so delighted, pleased, proud, happy to be able to be here in all these amazing places, watching my team play in Europe, talking to these amazing fans of other clubs. Kostas, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Give us a handshake. Those are for the YouTube ones. For those listening on the podcast, we did just shake hands then. But it's been absolutely brilliant. I've been Will Pugh with the Opposition View live from Athens ahead of West Ham's game away at Olympiacos, match day 3 in the Europa League group stage. A win all but guarantees the Hammers route through to the next stage. Do me a favour, subscribe to us on YouTube, like, review, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever. You know where to get us on Twitter at @WeAreWestHam. You know mine and Jonesy's personal profiles on both of those platforms. And You can buy us a pint. You will have seen, if you're watching on YouTube or listening, that Kostas insisted on footing the bill this time. But the We Are West Ham podcast account has got a few quid in it, thanks to you guys buying us pints at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. So if you want to do that, you can do. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to Kostas. Coming you Irons, West Ham are massive. Another European night away from home. What a time to be a Hammer. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time. Next up will be an Everton opposition view. Cheers.